Let me ask you, Attorney Barry, how important for your team would the result of the next survey be in April, which will be the March survey? Kasi dito na magre-reflect yung mga rally ni Vice President Leni Robredo.
Well, obviously, while we are confident that the numbers will soon reflect what we are seeing on the ground, we are, very, I wouldn't say apprehensive, but we will be keeping a very, very close eye on what that survey says. Because obviously, when that comes out, this will be March. That's already 2 months before the election. That gives us just a smaller window of time to make any adjustments. But as I said earlier, we are confident. We think that we are on the right track. We think that the energy of the People's Campaign is really ramping up in the last few weeks remaining before we get to Election Day. And that's I think, what will be needed to get us past the finish line in May.
But do you think that the next survey would have the Vice President have a voting preference of at least 20?
I think so. I'm pretty confident that the next survey will reflect that. Yes.
Okay. Also, I need to ask you, 54 days, I believe, if I'm counting it right.
Yes,
There's 54,
it's 54
days.
Yes.
Opo, before election day. Do you feel, and I'm certain there are internal surveys. I think that was also mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, by Senator Franklin Jordan, but I'm going to go to that later. But is there a need, you feel, to recalibrate the messaging of Leni Robredo and Kiko Pangilinan to be able to encourage or entice or move more people to the team of Leni and Kiko?
We think that the basic messaging, Gobyernong tapat, angat buhay lahat, is working. And even in terms of the metrics that we are looking at, it has gained a lot of traction. It has actually led to a certain amount of conversion. So we're pretty happy with it. But that said, obviously, particularly in campaigns run in the age of social media, you have to do a lot of tweaking. You have to do a lot of adjustments, particularly for specific audiences. One thing that has changed in social media campaigns is you can now have specific messages for specific audiences on social media. So that's something that we do on a day-to-day basis, a week-to-week basis. And I expect that we will continue to be doing these adjustments in the remaining 54 days of the campaign.
Coming up is a unification among Bongbong Marcos's rivals. Still possible. Less than 2 months before the elections, Robredo's spokesperson, Attorney Barry Gutierrez, will still be with us after the break. Please stay tuned.
COVID-19 overwhelmed the most powerful nation on the planet.
Hospitals ready.
Examining the science and pressing our leaders.
This is spreading, or it's going to spread within communities. Is that really? No, because we're ready for it.
How to move forward.
This is a war.
Feel Dr. Hahn, myself, and Dr. Fauci.
So if you're going to fight a war, you better start shooting at the enemy instead of at each other.
You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Pinky Webb. Our guest today, Robredo spokesperson Barry Gutierrez. Sir, let's talk about endorsements first. No, is it true that the Vice President is open to a possible endorsement by President Duterte?
She said that if that happens, then she will welcome it, provided that it's not a transactional arrangement. In other words, it's not an endorsement in exchange for something else. But obviously, this is an election, and in an election, if somebody comes forward and says, "I'm going to support you," then the response is thank you, and then and move on.
So if President Rodrigo Duterte endorses Vice President Leni Robredo, she will say thank you.
Yes, definitely. I mean, what would you say? The only thing that she clarified before was it cannot be a transactional thing. Hindi pwedeng kaliwaan na parang bibigay ko to kapalit ganito. But if it's an endorsement freely given, it's an endorsement given because of what she represents and who she is and the values that she actually carries, then definitely it's something that she will welcome. It's not to say that she
And the
will actively seek it or court the endorsement, but if it's given freely, then she will be thankful for it.
How about possible? Are you expecting more endorsements? Let's talk about a few that I do remember. Bulacan Governor, malinaw na po yun, Fernando.
Yeah.
Eastern Samar Governor Ben Everdone, and I believe also Northern Samar Governor Ong Chuan, and Congressman Rufus Rodriguez as well. Are you expecting more endorsements from politicians?
Well, definitely. Just this morning, I believe that Deputy Speaker and former ARMM Governor Mujib Hataman already issued his formal endorsement. So we expect that in the coming days, the number of endorsements coming from local leaders will increase. Of course, aside from politicians, we have had a lot of endorsements coming from private citizens and civil society groups. And again, we expect that this number will increase in the coming weeks going to the election.
Attorney, are unity talks still possible? Senator Drilon was saying that the internal survey shows double-digit increase for the vice president. Other candidates, he says, should think of unification. Frankly, if at all, do you think if any one of them were to support, in the end, Vice President Leni Robredo, among those you see on television, I don't know if you see them though, who do you think is the most possible candidate that could throw his support to the vice president? Because if you look at the candidates, sir, some people even on Twitter are saying parang maganda yung relationship ni Vice President at ni Senator Manny Pacquiao.
Well, I really can't be that specific and speculate as to who will join the vice president. Obviously, we are open to conversations about possible unification. We are open to that particular line moving forward. But to speculate as to who among the other candidates would be most likely, I don't think I'm in a position to do that. Definitely, she has a good relationship with Senator Pacquiao, but she has had good relationships as well with the other candidates, and I think that there are points of commonality between the vice president's positions and her platforms and other candidates remaining. So we can't really say what will happen in the remaining 54 days, but definitely a unification is still on the table in the remaining time.
But if we go back to unification talks, really, this was really the battle cry of the vice president. She didn't want to run in the beginning. She wanted unification talks. But there was a formula that Senator Ping Lacson had proposed, to which the vice president rejected, hindi ho ba? Yung proposal ho kaya ni Senator Ping Lacson, should that be considered now by the candidates?
Well, that's really up to the candidates. The formula is simply, let's back the leading contender among us. Yes, that's the formula. Well, if Senator Lacson is still willing to do that, after all, he was the one who proposed it. Then that's really up to him. We certainly won't insist on it. The vice president's refusal to actually agree to that formula early on was anchored on her commitment that once I file, I will fight it out to the end, regardless of my number. So I don't know what the thinking is with respect to the other candidates. Some of them might feel that abandoning their candidacy might be turning their back on some of their supporters. So we cannot obviously take that away from them. But if they are open to pursuing a
Okay.
unification, then that's something that we are certainly open to.
Attorney Barry Gutierrez, sir, thank you so much for your time.
Anytime, Pinky, always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, sir. And up next, a former anti-communist official calls for a revolutionary government under President Rodrigo Duterte. Armed Forces spokesperson Colonel Demi Zagala shares his thoughts when we return. Please stay tuned.
Cigarette smoking is one of the leading causes of pulmonary and cardiovascular diseases globally.
7,000 chemicals per puff. It's not even if you just finish the whole stick. And all these chemicals are not good.
2 hours in, you'll already have the cravings. 8 hours in, you'll start coughing, which will get more pronounced the one day after you quit.
On Med Talk Health Talk, we'll dive deep into the question of, is there really a less harmful alternative to cigarette smoking?
Today, we're going to be taking this marvel of engineering and taking it for a special ride as we meet somebody who definitely knows his